In Canada, pharmacists, their scope of practice is expanding as we speak because of the shortage in healthcare workers. Because of that expansion, there's more room for technology to be integrated to take care of the administrative burden that pharmacists are feeling now. You can only produce like 200, 300 new pharmacists every year. Our population is growing. I think it's key for these health tech companies to have healthcare people as the decision makers, like pharmacists, physicians, because we're creating a product to help the pharmacists as opposed to getting rid of them or taking over an aspect of their practice. At the end of the day, I'm a pharmacist myself. I don't want to get rid of that field with technology. As healthcare professionals, we need to be a part of the integration of technology as opposed to letting non-industry experts make that decision for us.
So, welcome everybody back to the podcast. Today I'm joined by an inspiring guest who is a pharmacy student at UBC and the co-founder of Xpress Select, a B2B SaaS platform that streamlines over-the-counter recommendations and minor ailment prescription services. Her company is making it easier for pharmacists to save time while enhancing the patient experience. We'll dive into how she identified this problem, how she built a tech company without a background in software development, and how she's managing to balance it all while still being a full-time student. Plus, we'll hear her thoughts on the value of entrepreneurship and the different programs out there and what's next for her growing startup. So let's get started. Welcome to the podcast, Hana.
Thank you, Brooke, for having me. I'm excited to answer your questions today.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you for sure. Before we dive into your startup journey, I guess I'd love to start with a bit of background. You're currently a fourth year pharmacy student, and at the same time, you co-founded this tech company. I want to know, did you always see yourself becoming an entrepreneur, or was this something that kind of developed over time?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. So, ever since I was a kid, I knew that I wanted to own my own business. I had that entrepreneurial spirit. And with choosing my career, I chose it carefully to make sure that I have the space to practice in that sense. So I knew healthcare was it for me, but I also wanted to be in a branch of healthcare where I have the ability to focus on my entrepreneurship more easily.
So I guess now I'm curious then, like, when was like the first time you kind of thought like, ooh, like starting some type of innovative business idea would be fun? Like, did your family like maybe kind of bring that idea or did they expose you to any of those opportunities, would you say?
Yeah, so my grandpa actually owned a couple of companies back in the days, and I would go, and my dad worked there as well. I would go visit them, and then at home, I would play games where like I've started a startup. I would have like my own like stamp, like Hannah's company. So I was always like in game formats before I went on to actually pursue it.
Okay, that's actually really interesting because I read a book recently. Um I don't remember exactly the title, but it essentially I was basically lost a little bit in life thinking about what I wanted to do as a career. And it was one of the first few pages, but it essentially said if you're kind of deciding what you want to do, think about what you enjoyed most as a child. So that's actually really interesting because as a child I enjoyed kind of like playing essentially like teacher, like with my dolls, my stuffed animals. So then I kind of didn't really, I wasn't really aware of that I kind of lost that passion. But then eventually later in adulthood, I found it again. And essentially, um, what I did afterwards in adulthood, like experimenting with like tutoring, I was like, oh, okay, this kind of feels like being a kid again. Doesn't feel like work, right? So you're kind of going back a little bit into your childhood, which is nice to see somebody else say. But did you set up those like lemonade stands as a kid? Like those typical, start a business as a kid?
No, I never did the lemonade stands, but I would like do different businesses and like get money from family members and relatives. Like I had these like fake stethoscopes that kids have with like the blood pressure machines and stuff, and I would like do a little checkup on them, get money from them.
Like
Yeah, so every
actual money or like kind of
actual money, yeah. Yeah,
okay.
with my toys.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I also heard recently like, to kind of have a a child like grow up in an environment where they see creating that additional value, services or whatnot, and getting that financial reward. That's kind of if you implant that, or not implant it, but if you kind of plant the seed for it while they're a kid, and they're kind of positively reinforced, then they see that kind of as an outcome and they realize, oh, that's actually okay, that's how you essentially like, gain points. It's like playing Monopoly, right? You're getting like this money to
Yeah.
then use in life as kind of to get what you are interested in. So I think that's also really important too. Like I'm even starting to think about having to do that with my kids, like showing them how to like set up a little business for fun so they can
Yeah.
see the rewards.
Yeah, for sure. One of the books that I read when I was like 18, 19, and had a pivotal moment in my mindset was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And that's a big part of his book as well. He mentions that as a kid, his rich dad would always make him like think of ideas to like make money as opposed to, just like giving him money for chores or like going and working for someone. It was always him being encouraged to create something to make money.
Oh, when did you read that? You said when you were a kid?
18, 19. No,
18,
no,
9.
not a kid. Yeah,
Okay. Okay, yeah,
it's an
interesting.
adult's book.
I did read that, but I don't know why. I just maybe didn't hear the part. I thought you said you read it as a kid.
No,
Um,
no.
okay, because that's really cool. And yeah, that
Yeah.
that book definitely like changed my approach on life as well, which is so interesting. And I guess since you were like having all your different pharmaceutical like jobs, I don't know if you had like the internships I saw with your
Yeah.
previous experience. Did you kind of, or in your previous jobs, were you always noticing like the areas where they could have like been more efficient, where you could have like added that value because of your previous knowledge? And I guess when did you notice that, at least for Express? So like actually in your recent position?
Yeah, I mean, ever since I remember, I've had this annoying trait that when I go somewhere, or like especially when I travel, I notice stuff that's missing in my hometown, or I'm situated in Vancouver now. So I would go somewhere, I would see that, like, why doesn't Vancouver have this? Why does this place? Like, we should like look into bringing it into Vancouver. And that was always with me since I was like in my teenage years. And that carried over to pharmacy. And with pharmacy, obviously, I've worked at multiple community pharmacies, and spending hours and hours there, you typically notice the pain points and the gaps because you're taught certain standards in school, and then you practice differently because of those pain points and gaps. So I'm currently trying to address those gaps with technology.
And was there like a specific like moment you remember where you're just like, oh, this is like so frustrating for like the customer coming into this, pharmaceutical company, and you're like, was there kind of that moment, at least for Express Select? Do you remember?
Yeah, for sure. So this actually takes me back in my second year of pharmacy school. My best friend and I co-founded a nonprofit where we were trying to bring awareness for the non-traditional paths in pharmacy school. Because pharmacy school, their focus mainly is to get you out and for you to become a traditional pharmacist in community pharmacies, like your typical Shoppers, Rexall, or for you to go to hospitals. But they don't or at least back then, they didn't focus that there's this whole vast area in tech, in pharmaceutical industry, where pharmacists can play a huge role. So we co-founded that with two other friends. And then once that took off, we were able to get to know someone at the Ministry of Health, which I'll drop her name, Sue Boma. She had a huge, she was quite pivotal in my career as well. She's very innovative and supportive. She took me to the Ministry of Health at a board meeting, and that board meeting was basically allocated to me for me to pitch the nonprofit that I had at the time. It was called PITech, Pharmaceutical Industry and Health Technology Organization. And the board members were like all pitching different ideas that we think like pharmacy's missing this, pharmacy's missing that. And that just basically pushed me to actively think and see what is missing on a day to day in the pharmacy and actually act on it. So, my best friend and I, who's also, we live together and she's also my co founder at Xpress Select, we started talking about it. And, like on a random night at the kitchen counter, we came up with the idea of over-the-counter recommendations because we really saw that in school we're taught that we need to do like a head-to-toe approach with a patient. We need to spend time with them. We need to see they have allergies, like medical conditions, whatnot. And typically in school, like we're taught to spend like a good 7 minutes with each patient. But in reality, in practice, the pharmacist doesn't have that time. They unfortunately don't have that time. And because they're so pressured to meet the other duties they have behind the counter, over the counter recommendations are usually like missed out on. So we thought like we would start with there, and then once we got our foot in the door, then like we're iterating our product to like meet other needs as well.
And are you guys right now like testing it out on like one location and seeing how it
Yes.
works?
Yes. So we're currently in 4 pharmacies.
Okay.
And yeah, we're scaling and expanding as we speak.
And I'm sure like every day you're getting like new data, right? That's like
Yes.
making you pivot and like it's gonna, your original business plan, probably you're not gonna execute that because like there's new information coming in. So you guys are really at that kind of stage where everything's changing. Um,
Yeah. Pivots are very necessary for startups because what you start with is typically never what you end with, or
mhm.
not the main thing that you're like producing.
And I think that's like so important for like entrepreneurs because they're afraid to always start. Like they have this idea and they want it to be perfect, like plan everything. And then once you start it, you're just like changing every few months. And then you're like, well, if I change this one part, it's probably going to change the entire business plan. And then you're just like, well, I have to rewrite it. But then if I like pivot once more, like it's just going to keep changing. So do you find that you're just like, um, I mean, do you usually rewrite business plans, or do you kind of just at this point in, you're kind of changing so much, you're just like, I might not even rewrite it. It might be a waste of time in a way.
No, we're changing as we go. We're customer obsessed rather than product obsessed. So we're pivoting with the needs of our customers and changing based on their needs. Because when you make your product, you have an idea from like your own experience and the market validation research that you've done, but you still don't know 100% what the customers need. So once you get your footstep in the door, then you have to start changing based on their needs as well.
Yeah, and I mean sometimes like that changes a lot as well, right? Depending on
Yeah.
the economy and different factors. Um, but I'm interested because I don't know, from what I've researched about you online, you I don't see like have a technical background, but this does seem to be like a very like technical kind of service, right? So I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, like, how did you go about building a SaaS platform without, like, I don't know, like a software engineering degree or whatnot?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. My co-founder and I don't know how to write a single code line,
Yeah.
but we're SaaS founders. And that is to do with the great tech team that we have on board. So we have a CTO who's a serial founder. He's great at like software development. We also have a full stack developer. So in startups, your team is everything. And we were lucky enough to be able to have the connections, have the means to form a group who's able to like complement our industry knowledge with tech knowledge.
Okay. And so I'm just wondering now, like, where did you kind of find such good talent? Was this somebody like in one of the programs you were participating in? How did you initially, I guess, meet maybe the CTO, for example?
Yeah, so we got into, with just an idea, we got into innovation at UBC. At the time, it was called entrepreneurship at UBC. We completed their venture founder program, which is basically an educational incubator program. And at that incubator program, we met our current CTO. He was an advisor back then. He believed in my co-founder and I. He believed in the product and the vision, and he was an advisor on our team for a while. And then when we were at the stage that we're at the scaling stage, he joined us as a CTO.
Wow.
And with our full stack developer, uh, we were lucky enough to have met her before even starting the startup. So my co-founder and I worked at the UBC pharmacist clinic. And at that clinic, our full stack developer currently, at that time, she was completing a co-op position. So we knew her, we knew how great she was. So when we had this idea, we like reached out to her and she was luckily interested enough to start working with us.
Okay, that's yeah, really cool. I definitely feel like finding the right talent is so important, like having the right team. And and you've mentioned that you were part of like the entrepreneurship program. Um, I saw as well you're part of some other ones like Ripple Ventures, Next Canada. Um, did you find that these programs specifically like really helped you? I guess because maybe you didn't have a business background, did they kind of fill in those gaps that you're kind of missing? I'm sure you've read books, right? Which I mean, I'm pretty sure you can self-teach business in a lot of ways, but how did you find these programs? Because I've heard a lot of different opinions, perspectives.
These programs have been excellent for us. They've been quite pivotal because, again, I don't have business knowledge. I'm pretty much an industry expert. So, as you mentioned, they have taught me the fundamentals of the business structure and how to go about it. And beyond that, they connect you with a network of professionals who are experts in different fields and like supply and chain tech law, all these fields that you need to have your startup like continue working. Because as a startup owner, you might be like, we are a SaaS company for the tech space, but we need a toolbox basically with like experts from supply and chain. We need a lawyer. We need all sorts of um, different people to help the um, continuity of our product and startup. So, yeah, it's for sure the network that they introduce you to as well.
And do you find that the like some of the advisors, like have they started companies themselves and they're kind of guiding you through the process or
They're all mostly founders and experts. They're all experts, but mostly founders as well.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I definitely find like having a previous founder, like they're gonna warn you about like what to expect during this stage or this stage. So, um, Yeah, that's just like really good that you were surrounded in that environment and then like especially having like-minded individuals who are
Yeah.
going through the same problems and like um yeah, I find is literally like so important. It's kind of like that community, right?
Yeah, you
Um
need to be in the right community and the right team.
If you've been enjoying the real, honest conversations from the entrepreneurs and creators on this podcast, you already know how valuable the right guidance can be. That's exactly why I launched Click Digital Empowerment to help small business owners and solopreneurs take the next step with confidence. Right now, Click is offering 10 free business audits, followed by a recommendation report and 1 hour of free consultation. The report will include 3 recommendations on how you could improve your business, whether it be marketing or operations. It's a practical, no pressure way to sharpen your strategy and grow smarter. Head to our website, www.clicgempower.ca, or check out the link in the description, which will bring you to the interest form to sign up to see if you'll be one of the top 10 chosen. Now back to the video. You like are doing this full time, but also you're a full-time student. So I'm wondering like how do you have a balance? Because that sounds like a lot of commitment and responsibility on both ends. Do you still have time to do like your hobbies? I'm just wondering, are you sacrificing anything right now to do this?
So you for sure need to make sacrifices. You at the end of the day, you have 24 hours in the day, but if you're doing what you're really passionate about, you don't feel the burnout as much. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not burnt out, but like if you're passionate about it, you like have the fire, have the push to keep going. Your work-life balance is definitely not going to be as much as like you working for someone else. Because when you're working for someone else, you have a 9 to 5, you come home, you're done. But when you own your own thing, it's like a 24/7 thing. Like the other day, my co-founder texted me at 4 a.m. that like, hey, we should like do this for this meeting. So like, it's always on your mind, and you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay that like when I come home, I'm not gonna be like 100% present. My
Mhm.
mind is still gonna be with the startup to some level.
Do you ever feel like you're not in your body? Like I don't know how to describe it. Like almost in a way like your mind is so busy that
Yeah.
you don't feel like grounded. You're kind of like almost dissociated in a way. I don't know how to describe it, but I've definitely had that feeling myself. So just like wondering if you had it
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of the times, maybe almost all the time, because it's kind of like I think that also goes hand in hand with like imposter syndrome, maybe. Like, what am I doing? Is like I'm making all this progress, but like, do I belong?
Mm.
And uh it's it's the it's the high rewarding nature of startups that also leads to these like low serotonin moments.
I guess like yeah, definitely comparing yourself to like somebody who's done it and who and a lot of the times I feel like social media makes it look like people do it and it's like effortless because you only
Yeah.
see the accomplishments, right? So um
Like LinkedIn, people
yeah.
only post once they've accomplished something. Like I myself, I only post the accomplishments, but I don't
Yeah.
post like the rejections.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
I've definitely thought about that. But then at the same time I was like I don't really feel too like comfortable sharing like, oh, like I'm totally like failing right now. Like, please help
Yeah.
me. It's kind of like you're playing like you don't want to seem like you're playing like the victim, but then you also don't want to just show like good moments. So it's definitely like I guess it's a common feeling to like I feel kind
Yeah.
of confused with that.
Yeah, and it's also like comparison is basically your enemy at this stage because like if I start comparing myself to like my colleagues or my classmates who are not doing the same thing, then I start like doubting myself, like, what am I doing? So in 2 months, I have to write my board exam to be a practicing pharmacist. And I have barely started studying for that, while my classmates have started since January, and I simply don't have the time because, yeah, again, I have 24 hours in a day. But yeah, so that's when like you just can't compare yourself. You gotta like just focus on your own journey and keep pushing.
Yeah, like comparing maybe to yourself yesterday, because I'm sure there's like improvements,
Yeah.
every day you learn at least one thing that's new. So there's always that. Have you ever like thought about like thinking like maybe I'll take a pause on school because it's so stressful to balance too? But you're almost at the end anyways, like fourth year program, right?
I only have 4 weeks left, so
Yeah.
it's
Drop out right now.
yeah, no, it's not an option, but I've thought of that, but never something that I thought of acting on because where where I'm working at right now, the field that I am, it requires my credentials. It requires my PharmD.
Mm.
So, yeah.
I guess maybe we can now jump into some of the exciting things like happening in the industry. Like I'm sure you've done a lot of like research to look at maybe what some competitors are doing, and you have to always be up to date with what generally what's happening in the industry. What do you see or what do you predict might happen in the next uh, maybe 5 to 10 years, for example, in the pharmacy tech space?
Yeah, so with in Canada, pharmacists, their scope of practice is expanding as we speak because of the shortage in healthcare workers. And because of that expansion, there's more room for technology to be integrated to take care of the administrative burden that pharmacists are feeling now and the traditional way that they've been practicing up to now. So in technology will be integrated regardless. The extent of it, I can't predict because it's a heavily regulated space.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it's tough to dance around the regulations, but definitely a need in our space because at the end of the day, like you can only produce like 200, 300 new pharmacists every year. Our population is growing, our scope is growing. So technology is definitely crucial to be integrated at this point, and it's already slowly making its way there for the expanded scope. It's a matter of how long it will take to have it fully out there. And I think it's key for these health tech companies to have healthcare people as the decision makers, like pharmacists, physicians, because at the end of the day, we're creating a product to help the pharmacists. It, and I want to like hyper focus on this. We're helping the pharmacists apply what their clinical knowledge as opposed to getting rid of them or taking over an aspect of their practice.
Because yeah, they don't want to lose their jobs, right?
And like at the end of the day, I'm a pharmacist myself. I don't want to get rid of that field with
Yeah.
technology. So that's why we need, as healthcare professionals, we need to step it up and be a part of the integration of technology as opposed to letting non-industry experts make that decision for us.
Okay. For maybe like an entrepreneur who's just listening and they don't know maybe, what to work on next, they're looking for that idea. What are the main pain points that you have personally seen during your time working in a pharmacy? Instead, like for example, what are some of the processes that, are still so outdated where you feel like if something were created, it could make a huge difference, but not necessarily take away their job so that the pharmacist can still use most of their time to actually give to the customer.
Yeah, I'll give you one example. Pharmacies to this day operate by fax,
Oh,
and fax is quite outdated. I don't, I personally haven't seen other industries use fax. so that the pharmacies use fax as a mean of communication between the physicians and the pharmacies. So that's definitely an area. But just to step out of the pharmacy world and the healthcare world, to any entrepreneur potentially listening to this podcast, finding pain points is very easy. Like on a day-to-day basis, you just gotta you gotta focus to I don't know, you go shopping, you do your daily work, and if even once you think, oh, I wish there was this to make this better, or oh my God, this is so inconvenient, that's a pain point that you've located, and you just gotta do more research about it, see if everyone else is feeling this pain point and whether it's something that you're passionate about or not to build on.
Yeah, and I guess because like pharmacists and those who maybe, have a role there as an intern or like an associate assistant, they are also so focused on like what they learned in school and like trying to apply it. Do you find that a lot of those workers have that entrepreneurial mindset and they're just like, wow, this is so annoying. Some of them just stop right there and they just kind of like say this is annoying, but then they just like move on about their days. Do you find that they also sometimes have that kind of entrepreneur spirit where they're thinking of ways to improve it or not really?
I don't think this is pharmacy specific. In general, as human beings, um, I'm not sure if you've heard of the innovation curve, or I'm not sure if it's exactly called the innovation curve, but it's a curve displaying where people stand in their mindset and how they like to work. And it's a bell-shaped curve. The innovators and the early adopters make up a very small proportion of the population. Everyone else is late adopters, laggers, people who like to follow directions. And that just applies to the general population, not just something in pharmacy. So you find less people who are willing to take the risk, willing to actually do something about the pain points they experience. Um, so yeah, it's definitely not common in general.
I definitely feel like uh, pharmacists, they need to work with those few, individuals who have that mindset because even if those few individuals like just maybe, shadow a day in the life of like a pharmacist just to see what it's like, I feel like there could be a lot of innovation and that doesn't really happen. And it's kind of uncomfortable for somebody to ask a pharmacist, hey, can I shadow you? And I don't,
Yeah.
they don't know each other. So I guess there needs to be some type of collaboration there for sure to get the ideas moving and to start executing.
Yeah, you
That's
need
what I
to
think.
find the right people, and change is always uncomfortable. Change is
Mm,
never easy, and you gotta find the early adopters who are willing to take that risk.
yeah, for sure. Um, I'm also wondering, what's kind of next for Express Select? Do you guys have some type of exciting plan coming up for the next maybe 6 to 12 months that you're looking forward to, or anything just excited to share?
Yeah, so my co-founder and I have been accepted into the Next 36 program. So we will be moving to Toronto in May and exploring the Ontario ecosystem. And
Mhm.
then, yeah, we're just onboarding a lot of different students in different fields, making new features of our product. So, a lot of exciting things are coming up. And yeah, our team is expanding, our customer base is expanding, and we'll see where it takes us.
And I guess, do you see long term you're gonna probably, as long as this keeps growing, you're gonna probably focus more on Express, and like essentially kind of this was kind of created as like a passion project. If it does grow, you're gonna just put most of your attention there in the future, at least long term.
Yes, I will be going full time after graduation.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
yeah, that's a big jump, but
yeah.
definitely if you're able to do so, congratulations. Yeah, that's a big
Thank you.
achievement.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
I think those are, yeah, all the questions that I think I have today. And I think you've definitely given the listeners kind of an insight of how somebody in like pharmacy and tech thinks. And I think a lot of the things that you're also learning is going to apply to a lot of the listeners too, no matter like what venture they're trying to create. I think definitely the importance of like having a strong team, and having to make sacrifices in order to actually do what you're passionate about. You're definitely somebody that looks like you're doing okay. You're definitely, you're not completely burnt out yet, hopefully. And hopefully that is a little bit of an inspiration for somebody who's listening. Because having somebody for sure who's done it, and who's gone through the process is definitely kind of that extra thing that keeps people going. So I'm sure your story here is gonna inspire somebody. And yeah, all the best for Xpress Select. I'm yeah, so excited. I'm in Toronto. Like if you're ever here, we could definitely meet. But I'm excited to see kind of the growth that you guys have, at least in the Ontario market, because it's different from BC. So yeah, I definitely admire how you're doing all this and graduating soon. So sounds like you've done a lot of good work. And yeah, I'm excited to see where you go on with this.
Thanks a lot, Brooke. It was very nice speaking with you, and I hope I was able to like push someone to act on their ideas. And if anyone would like to like speak with me or anything, I can give you my contact information
Okay, yeah,
to
for
give
sure.
out to them. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely put that in the show notes so that people know how to reach you in case they do. Who knows, you might find somebody who might be a good teammate on your team. So I will definitely put that out there. But yeah, thank you everybody for joining, and yeah, we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Thank you.